My name is Victor Kitson, and we're here in Los Angeles for the Apollo 8 Foundation event tonight at Exchange. I got Mike Koglin with me. How are you doing, Mike?
Very well, thank you.
This is a brand new concept, the Apollo 8 Foundation. What are your thoughts on it?
I think it's a fantastic concept, actually. I think it's a really good idea to set something like this up. I know and I can imagine there are probably quite a few DJs who sort of donated, for good causes, kind of privately, including myself. But I think this is actually great to, just have the website and you have like all the DJs who've joined the Apollo 8 Foundation, and also all the people, or just the fans, can just participate as well. So I think
can be a part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a really good concept, and I'm very excited to play for the very first event here in LA tonight. What
kind of impact do you think the Apollo 8 Foundation can make?
I think this has a really good future. There will be more and more DJs who will join the foundation, and more people will log onto the website, and it's going to grow on Facebook, and so I think it's a good thing.
Cool. Do you have any charities that are close to your heart?
I've looked up a few. I've done things with Smile Train. Before, for kids with like a cleft lip, for example, and also kids in Vietnam who still suffer actually now from like what happened like in the during the Vietnam War. So I think that's something I'm sort of into, like charity-wise.
If we go into to music, what was it that made you want to produce your own music? Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, ever since I was like sort of 16, 17, I was really into music, particularly always into electronic music. When I bought my first Moog Prodigy synthesizer, I think I was maybe 18 then or something, and started playing in bands then, and then actually learned sound engineering. In Frankfurt in Germany, and then in 1990 I actually moved to London, where I lived for like 22 years. I live in Berlin now, but I lived for over 20 years in London, and I went there because I had the opportunity to work in recording studios, like in Soho. And started in a smaller recording studio, and then the next bigger one came up, and then it just so all developed from there. Back then I thought I'd go to London for like a year, 2 maximum, and I stayed for 22, yeah.
What was it like to move to London? And what was it like to create a life in London?
Very exciting. Obviously, I'm sort of from the Cologne area in Germany, and London is a huge place in comparison. It was all very exciting, and just sort of working with all these big mixing desks in studios, and meeting like really good and interesting people, and musicians and fellow producers, and then quite soon got sort of involved, working with sort of DJs, and then actually only started DJing myself in sort of around about 2000, actually.
Yeah, because you were a producer at heart first, right?
Yeah, I was always an engineer first, and then producer, programmer, and then after the Silence, this track I had out in 98, 99, a lot of requests came in for me to DJ, and at first I had to say actually I can't do it.
Yeah, you don't know how to.
I had to quickly learn it. I mean, those were also vinyl days. There was only 12-inch vinyls basically, so I actually had to learn learn it properly.
You started in the electro and house scene. How did you move more towards the trance scene?
I guess they came sort of, in sort of 97, 98. Before that, I was working with people like Jeremy Healy, for example, is like a house DJ, and Boy George too. I've done quite a few things with him and people like that. but then, yeah, then when the sort of trance sound first came up, like sort of 97, I sort of really sort of found my niche there, I think, and sort of started making this kind of music myself. And then, yeah, like the Silence, as I said, came out in 98 and went like top 20 in England and top 10 in like in other sort of European countries, and all sort of really kicked off from there.
Who musically, like, who inspired you back then? Because trance was still pretty new, right? It wasn't that commercialized, or it wasn't.
Yeah, it was still quite underground, and actually, yeah. But I was always sort of into the electronic scene, like people like Kraftwerk and all these sort of UK electronic artists too, like Gary Newman and yeah. Lots and lots of sort of influences, actually. I mean, I like all kinds of music. I like sort of acoustic music or jazz even, and you know. But trance, at that time at least, was sort of my thing.
I know in London, where you had a studio, where there was a lot of studios, you had some really interesting neighbors, right? Studio neighbors. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Could that be Above and Beyond? Yes. I met Jono and Paavo and Tony so when they were just starting out, like just fresh after uni for them. And yeah, we ended up having 2 adjoining studios in the same building. And yeah, we were already kind of mates before, but when we had the studios next to each other, that's when I was sort of very involved with the Junior Beats label, and Mark Pletcher too, actually, like who I have the pleasure with to play with again tonight. I haven't seen the guy for like years and years now. Must be like at least 5-6 years ago. So it's going to be great to see him. And yeah, and like I said, my studio was right next to Jono's and Paavo's, and yeah, that's when I had a lot of sort of remix work, for example, too, with the Junior Beats label, and yeah, had a few collabs with a couple of collabs with Jono, and 2 with Paavo too.
What do those times remind you of right now when you look back?
Those were the days. I mean, I had a really good time, like working in the studio, and then often like go to the pub afterwards. And it's a great area in London too, where we had the studios in Shoreditch, like Old Street area in London. Lots of cool places to go to. And I mean, since then I've moved to Berlin, and Above and Beyond have actually a much nicer studio too now in south of the river. Yeah.
How did your rework of Depeche Mode's Silence come about?
I just had the idea one night watching MTV, and the original came on, and Depeche Mode were one of those electronic influences that I was a big fan of. And when I heard the song, I thought, with that riff, that could be made into a great trance track. And I just sort of went into the studio the next day and did it, just as an instrumental. Like there's no vocals in my version, but obviously it had that big distinctive riff, and my publisher at the time really liked it too, and obviously had to get sort of permission next, get clearance, and they eventually tracked down Martin Gore, the keyboard and also the guy who writes most of the music for Depeche Mode. They tracked him down actually in the States, somewhere on tour, and sent him the track, and he really liked it, and he was like, yeah, thumbs up. So to my big surprise, because sometimes it can be really sort of difficult to actually get permission to do basically covers like that, but yes, they said yes, and the rest is history.
I think it's so cool because this was around the same time Goriella started making tracks. Yeah. So it's really early in the trance scene. Like the trance scene isn't really born yet, right?
Yeah, true. It was sort of one of the very early original trance tracks, I would like to think. And like you said, yeah, so like Ferry Corsten and people like that were doing it too, and some German guys too, like Jam and Spoon, for example.
What was it like to hit that like breakthrough record? What was that like?
Well, that was very exciting because when Multiply Records, which is part of the EMI group, released the track, it just got picked up by Radio 1, first of all, on their sort of A rotation playlist. So I was constantly on the radio, and like Dave Pierce, for example, made it his sort of record of the week and stuff like that, and then sort of, started climbing up the charts, and then sort of TV appearances came up, and tours, and at that time I had to sort of quickly learn
to learn how to DJ.
And then my very first DJ gig was actually in Japan. And it was certainly very scary because there was a big club in Tokyo, and I came there with my boxes of vinyl, but it all went well. So
yeah, because a lot of people start DJing at their local clubs, right?
Yeah.
But Mike Koglin does his first DJ gig ever in Tokyo in Code, right?
That's it. Yeah. Wow, you did your research. Yeah.
What was that like?
There was I probably didn't sleep for like 2 days, 2 nights before. It was so scary, but no, it all went well, and it was a great crowd, and I love going back to Japan ever since. I was there actually only 2 weeks ago. Played in a club in Osaka, which was also really good.
What do you think becoming a DJ, what did it give you as a producer when you got to play your tracks out?
I think it's actually very good to do both. I think as a producer, you might have the skills to like make a track sound good, but as a DJ, you get actually to road test basically the track and see how it works in the club, what kind of reaction it gets, and very often I sort of end up then going back to the studio and maybe changing some levels, perhaps turning up the kick drum, or actually sort of rearranging the track a bit, maybe shorten the breakdown a little bit and work on the build up. And then it's always great when you can sort of basically test your own track on a big sound system with a crowd. So I think it's really good to like be a DJ and a producer, or at least sort of, if you're either or, then a lot of people sort of work, like a DJ works with a producer, or producers work with a DJ.
So they get the whole,
I think that's always a good combination, yeah.
How did the Sudhaus project come together?
That's my new project on Silk Music with a fellow producer from Berlin, Mood Freak. The name came actually from where my studio is based at now. It's a former brewery, and it says a big Sudhaus on it, because it's like sort of like where they used to make the beer or something. And I was like, wow, that's the name sorted. And me and this guy, Stefan is his name, we work together really well in the studio, and we've had like 2 EPs out now on Silk Music, and we've just finished a couple of big remixes for Armada 2. And yeah, it's an ongoing project. It's also a new sound, obviously. It's a much more sort of progressive kind of back, more like sort of 124, 125 BPM, and it's sort of a progressive house in the original sense, rather than the EDM progressive house. It's the most progressive trance, you might call it.
And what else can we expect? Like, what are you working on right now with the Sudhaus project?
We have probably another sort of 5-6 tracks that are kind of almost finished. So we're working on a lot more material.
How do you approach a track when you start on an original? Where do you start?
Well, I know everybody works differently, but for me it's usually always the beat. It's like the beat comes first, get a sort of good beat together, and then a bass line. And then sort of once I have sort of like the groove basically in the bass line, then I would sort of start adding like melodic elements. I know other people work completely the opposite way around. They have like an idea in their head for a melody and get that done first, and then work on the beat and bass line afterwards. But yeah, I kind of always start sort of like with drums and the bass line sort of, and then get sort of inspiration from that for any sort of melodic elements.
Do you still see yourself more of a producer than a DJ?
Well, probably. I mean, I've spent a lot more time in the studio than on the road. It keeps changing. Sometimes this side is more, sometimes that side. But I actually enjoy being in the studio, too, and working on tracks.
You'll be playing back to back with Mark Pledger tonight.
Yeah.
You'll be playing a very special set, an Anjunabeats classic set.
Yes.
What can we expect to hear?
Well, yes, it's going to be an exclusive Anjunabeats classics set. Obviously, Mark and I, we've had a few releases out on Anjunabeats, which are probably old enough now to be called classics. So we're going to drop those. And then, yeah, I mean, there's a huge back catalogue, obviously, on the Anjunabeats label. So, yeah, we've kind of sort of sorted out our track list for tonight. It's like 1 hour, so we can only get that many tracks in. But yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to play the good old Anjunabeats tracks.
Me too, man. I can't wait for tonight. Mike Koglin wise, what are you working on right now? Under your own name.
Yeah, I'm working on a few more kind of sort of techier tracks at the moment, actually. So I'm actually a huge fan of techno too, and I'm sort of working on like a sort of trance techno fusion kind of thing at the moment. So yeah, lots and lots of kind of half-finished tracks at the moment, but now there will be more material coming out again this year too.
Cool. Thank you so much for your time, man.
Thank you.
My name is Victor Kidson, and we're in Los Angeles for the Apollo 8 Foundation event at Exchange. Thank you so much for watching.